Hello everyone, welcome to Grade Up. Welcome to our special sessions on analysis of CAT 2020, the answer keys and solutions. So we're going to look at the paper for slot 2 today. We're going to look at each and every question and discuss it. What are the answers? Are there any controversies in it? And what are the areas of confusion? Where did you make mistakes and why? All right, if you did make mistakes. All right, we learned a lot of lessons from CAT 2020. I learned a lot of lessons, and the key to CAT 2020, as usual, the biggest lesson that we learned was, of course, strategy and time management. That was of utmost important. Being used to 34 questions 1 hour, suddenly 26 questions in 40 minutes was a huge change. We did practice 25 in 40 minutes, but few, and we expected 20, and suddenly there was 26, and the degree of difficulty of the passages remained the same as 2019. Also the order of passages and the order in which you attempt it, right? So today we're going to take the question set where the visual culture, so we're going to do the visual culture, piracy and aggression passages. If you've taken CAT 2020 and you had slot 2, you would of course know what I'm talking about, right? So first of all, before I start, I hope all of you have had time to look at your answer key, to see your mistakes. Those of you who are joining us for the first time and you want to take Analyzed 2020 so that you can become a better CAT 2021 test taker, welcome to all of you. For those of you who have taken 2020 and this was your slot, we would do an analysis in detail. For those of you who are preparing for 21, this would be extremely useful. All right. So I have designed it in such a way that I have not given you off the answers of hand. I have not kept the slide where the answers have been given. You have to first work out your answers once again, and then we look at the right answers. We'll have to do it a little fast. As you know, Grade Up, we've been working very hard round the clock since the answer key has come out with detailed solutions of all the questions that appeared in CAT 2020, and we are also looking at doubts and questions to be challenged for all slots. I do not think there were any challenges or have been any challenges for English. There cannot be too many because it's such a subjective section. All right, the playlist of all the sessions is here. We've already done slot 1 of quant, DILR slot 1, DILR slot 3 and 2. VARC 1 has been done by Sanujam, and of course we're going to start off VARC 2. All right, so do look at the timings and stay tuned to Grade Up so you don't miss any session. All right, so I'm going to give you a minute to quickly read the passage, the slide, and then we'll move on to the questions. All right, your time starts now. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay. Now, this was the first passage for many of you. For me, this was the last passage of the set. If this is the first passage of the set, it's easier because I mean I'm not making excuses, but this is the last passage left for me, and I had literally 5 minutes to do this and 5 minutes to do the theta questions. So then what happens when you do this longish passage? It's a problem. All right. Okay. Now, when the best way to read this, and I thought I did a good job reading it, I wish I just had read the questions properly, is that the passage has been actually very well written. He has divided the main points into 4 main points. Firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly. Can you remember those 4 points? Then you remember the structure, and if you remember, there were questions on structure in 2 passages in this slot itself. So that is one. So understanding the main point and breaking it up into sections, 5 points is easy. There was one vocab based question which, if you had your roots right, the root of epi, the meaning of epi as in the root, and you had one question, a sitter out there. So I kick myself for not seeing this passage earlier, but this first passage was not as bad as we thought it was. When I came out of the hall, I in fact told in the analysis that visual culture passage was crazy, and I did it in the last part of my exam. The time was getting up and I did a miserable job of it. It in fact contributed a lot to my not so good score, which I will not tell you. All right, because I mean, it's not bad. It's not like something to be ashamed of, but something I'm not proud of. All right, question 1. Remember this question. No amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence of Michelangelo or Leonardo. In the light of the passage, which one of the following interpretations of this sentence is the most accurate? You didn't have to have the light of the passage. It's a literal interpretation of the passage of the sentence that you wanted for this question. So quickly, did you get this question right? What did you answer? Give me the answer and then we move on. You will of course remember the answer, but do you remember what answer you gave? Social analytical account. See, he says no amount of social analysis can account fully, explain fully, account fully for the existence, and later in the passage he talks of how great Michelangelo and Leonardo were and how they were unique artists because they influenced the way all their contemporaries thought and looked at art. So they kind of shaped art and aesthetics through their work. And so social analytical accounts of people like Michelangelo or Leonardo cannot totally explain them, cannot totally account for them, cannot totally explain their genius. That's the answer. It does not have to have the light of the passage. It's just a literal interpretation of the sentence as it is given. Michelangelo and Leonardo cannot be subjected to social analysis. He didn't say that. He said no analysis can fully explain. They cannot be analyzed is not what he says. No analysis exists, obviously not. Beings cannot be analyzed, unlike the art. He does not compare it with the art. Easy question. Second. So question 1 answer was 1. Moving on to question 2. Now, whenever I see an accept question, whether it's in the exam or in the classroom, I say, oh my God, this is an accept question. I hope the students read it. All of the following statements can be considered valid inferences from the passage except from what is given in the passage. What do you remember and what do you think can be inferred? Again, intelligently, if you had read the passage and remembered the points in the order in which it appeared, you could easily do this question. Artifacts are meaningful precisely because they help to construct the meanings of the world for us. Artifacts, objects of art. Okay, has he talked about art giving meaning to our lives? How artifacts contribute to the construction of a world. Okay, how artifacts are not just closed and fixed meaning events, how they help, how artifacts and art becomes artistic style, artifacts becomes an element of social relations. So this answer that artifacts can help us construct the meaning of the world around us, yes, we can infer it. Understanding the structures of perception is an important part. The last part of the passage, the fourth point that he makes, is of understanding structures of perception. Visual culture is not just about how we see, but how visual practices can impact and change the world, has been mentioned here. Here he says from here, okay, meaning is important. We need to understand how visual culture, the analysis and interpretation of images, and the ways that structure agents, practices, conceptualize and institutions. Third, he says that they are a part of our life worlds. And fourth, he says that we have basically it helps us, it's a vision is a socially and biologically constructed operation. Putting all that together, especially the first point, we will see how visual practices impact the world. But he has not said anything about why institutional structures are required, without which perception can, and nothing has been mentioned about the influence of institutional structures in perception. Therefore, obviously 3 is again quite an easy answer if you had read the passage properly. Again, I said first passage, the chances of you getting 5 on 5 correct would be high, because the first passage is where even some of my colleagues, quant colleagues, said that the moment I got the first 5 right, I thought ab to main VARC padhaunga, because you are fresh and when you're reading it, you can focus 100% on the first passage. If this was the first passage in your set, this was easy. The key was reading the passage properly. Got it? Okay, question 3. This is a good one. This is the last, almost the last line of the passage, where the author says, seeing operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the condition for visual, meaningful visual experience. What is the meaning of a covenant? A treaty or a kind of written understanding. Okay, he says, in the light of the passage, what is the meaning of the sentence? Again, if you've read the passage, very good, you don't need the light of the passage to understand this. Seeing, the act of seeing, operates on the basis of our connection with images, and this connection that we have with images establishes the conditions for meaningful visual experience. Which option says exactly these, but in other words? Option 1, sight as a meaningful visual experience is possible when there is a foundational condition established in the images of covenants. Is this what he said? Play of words. They all have the word foundation, they all have the word covenants, but is that what he said? Sight is possible when there is a condition established, or sight operates on the foundation or basis of the bond between the images and meaning and the condition of meaningful visual experience. So the key is understanding what it means. Seeing, the act of seeing, works on the basis of the connection with images that establish a condition for us to have a meaningful visual experience, for us to understand a visual experience, for us to have a visual experience which is meaningful. That explained best by, got it? That sight is a meaningful visual experience because of the bond, the covenant, the connect of meaningfulness that we establish with the images we see. First is wrong. Second, the way we experience sight is through images operated on by meaningful covenants. What meaningful covenants? Images are meaningful visual experience when they have a foundation of covenants seeing the many students said this was the right answer. What does the answer actually mean? That images become meaningful experiences when they have a foundation of covenant seeing them, or sight itself is based on the connection. Don't think of the word covenant, connection with images, and this connection and these images form the basis of our understanding, form the basis of a meaningful visual experience. So the answer for 3 is 4. This was a question which I can allow many of you getting wrong because it's playing on words and all the options play on words, and when you are in a hurry you're not likely to understand all the words as it is. Okay, so yes, this was a tough question. Okay, either you left the question or you may have marked it wrong, which is okay. The next one. What do you think is the meaning of epiphenomenon? What does he use the word epiphenomenon in the context? Again, we didn't have to go back to the passage. Scholar of visual consent seeks to regard images as evidence for explanation. He thinks of images as an evidence for some explanation of what's happening. He doesn't see images as an epiphenomenon. Epigraph, episcribe. Epi means to something which is over and above. The other meaning of epi means additional, supplementary, not the main. Therefore, it will be 1, phenomena supplemental to the evidence. Got it? As an explanation rather than an evidence rather than an epiphenomenon. So 4 out of the 5 questions were actually very easy. I'm kicking myself for even considering the passage to be tough, but then the problem was the end. When any passage, even if the aggression passage, which was the easiest in the set, if that had been given at the end, that might have looked difficult. What made this more difficult? But it is slightly longer than the other passages. But good. Next one. The arguments of the passage. This is to do with the keywords and the flow of the passage. In what order did the author delineate his points, express his points? Scholars, social analysis, Michelangelo, interpretive devices. No. Imagery, visual practice, life worlds, structures of perception. Looks okay. Visual construction of reality, work of genius, ethnography, epiphenomena. Epiphenomena was not the main point anyway. Visual culture, aesthetic value, lay audience again was given us, and visual experience. So which do you think is the best? Guys, I want to see the answer. What did you mark for this? You marked this right. That means you understood the order of the passages best. What are images? What are visual images? Visual definition of visual culture. Then he talked of visual practices. Then he talked of life worlds. Then he, of course, the last he talked was of structures of perception. So the answer is 2. Okay. Now, if you really look at it, Michelangelo and Leonardo have been given as an example. So this would not be the main point. Example of the point that he was trying to make. Visual construction of reality, work of genius again. Ethnography again was not part of the main point. One of the words he used, epiphenomena. This is definitely outright at first glance. Visual culture, yes. Aesthetic value, lay audience, oh really, come on. Again, he gave that only as an example. So looking at only one point, you could again say, yeah, I guess this would anyway be scholars part of it is good, social analysis maybe, but the other two all clubbed at the beginning of the passage anyway, the first one. So between 1 and 2 you might have had a bit of confusion. 2 is the right answer. All right, clear? Okay, the second one, the piracy passage. Easy, a couple of questions on tone, a couple of questions on what's his tone when he says this, the areas where students make lots of mistakes. Again, I'll give you about 45 seconds to read the slide. Move on to the next slide. Done, guys? Next slide. All right. Piracy starts by talking of incidents of piracy. Then he starts about where does it begin or end. He talks about the history of piracy. He says nothing different between Alexander the Great and a pirate. Alexander forcefully acquired power and wealth, and it's only a matter of scale. Difference between a conqueror and a pirate. And then he says the motive behind piracy is mostly need and greed. After that, he says that globalization, in a way, the globalization has given rise to a condition which encourages piracy, and he tells you how. And then he talks about piracy prevention and why has it failed, right? Okay, that's where he ends. Question 1, tough one. Many students who gave feedback said they got this wrong. Tough because facetious means funny, but question that he is asking is author's tone. Is he trying to be funny? Facetious is humorous. Is he making fun? Is he being funny about the hardships of peasant life? He said, why be a peasant and toil away in the sun for hours when you can make $4,000 with each, 4,000 pounds with each piracy raid? So imagine it's a condition where the hardworking, honest guy is having to spend so much for a pittance, and here you, in an illegal way, immoral act, you're getting a lot of money. Therefore, the tone is irony, that money, one needed money. So there were two ways of earning it, the honest way and the dishonest way. Isn't it ironic that the dishonest way, you didn't really have to work very hard. If you had a little bit of luck, you just could earn a lot of money through a little effort. Therefore, there's irony. Indignation means justified anger. There is no indignation here. I mean, is he angry for a justified cause? When you are angry, that's called indignation. There's no indignation. Facetious means funny. The author is not trying to be humorous. The tone of the entire passage is not humor. So he's not being facetious. He's not being funny. He's saying, why would I work hard and toil day and night for a pittance when I can make so much more as a pirate? So that brings out the irony of the situation. Hence his tone is ironic. Understood? All right. Question 7. So that tone question was one area where many students made mistakes. We will, of course, be talking about tones in detail so that you get that right in your future exams. What do you think is the author belief in the most effective way to control piracy in the long run? Answer was easy. He has said all failed, but the main thing is the discrepancy, the gap, income disparities. So obviously he would go with option 1 to eliminate poverty, because poverty, the need and greed is the cause of piracy. So if you can eliminate need, you can probably eliminate greed, and the disparities he has talked about. So easy answer. Answer was 1. All right. Author is, now remember, many I have warned you so many times in class. Author says the rise of piracy today. He has pointed out that globalization has also been a reason for the rise of piracy. The many reasons that he has given, and globalization, he has said, has helped in increase these incidents of piracy. So what are the reasons he has given, and which one has he not given? Which one option has he not given? He said, which one has he not given as a rise in piracy? Okay. He has talked of, here, the question here is, rise of globalization means that colonialism has been on the decrease. So the tough one was between this and this. He says, when piracy happened, surveillance has increased. But the problem is, surveillance is not the way to prevent piracy. So surveillance is not a reason for piracy. Surveillance is a result, and that people are having a surveillance of the high seas when to stop piracy, but that's not an effective way. Therefore the answer is 2. Understood? It's not a reason for the increase in piracy. Author hasn't mentioned. He says that surveillance is there, but how long will you keep the surveillance? The moment you remove it, there is. And then surveillance can only change the target of the pirates to the smaller ships which cannot afford it. Right? Therefore, 8-2 is the answer. Again, a tough question which many students made a mistake in. But is the answer given wrong? No. This can be inferred from the globalization, the fact that trade has increased, and globalization has happened at the end of colonization or colonialism. Okay. Question 9. A more eclectic history might have included conquistadors, Vasco da Gama and the East India Company, but Lair sticks to the disorganized small fry. The author says, Alexander also could be considered a pirate. The difference between a great general of the sea who won battles on the sea and a pirate is the scale. Emperors and generals get much more. And he says, if you had really gone into the history of piracy in a more eclectic manner, like taking from various sources, you would have included a lot of other names like Vasco da Gama, East India Company. But Lair sticks only to these small fry, these small pirates across the along the coast of Somalia and things like that. Based on this, the question is asking, what can you infer that the author believes? That Vasco da Gama and East India Company laid the grounds for modern piracy? Did he said that they were the cause? He said they should have been considered pirates. Doesn't mean that they laid the foundation for modern piracy. The disorganized piracy of today is no match for the organized piracy of the past. He says the pirates nowadays can be considered small fry compared to some of these people. Does not mean that piracy in the past was organized and today it is disorganized. So you cannot infer this. The fact that he called East India Company a pirate company shows that colonialism should be considered a form of piracy. Therefore, the answer for 9 is 3. Okay, he says Lair doesn't think of them as pirates. According to the author's point of view, they should be considered pirates. But it does not mean he is not blaming them enough. The author has not said anything about the blame game anyway. Okay. So 9, your answer is 3. Did you all get it right? Did any of you get it right? Do you remember? Okay. So the piracy passage was of moderate difficulty. The tone question was the one where many students went and marked facetious instead of ironic. But then remember, the overall tone of the passage was not ironic, was not facetious, and the author's point is not to make fun or to bring a smile to your face. His is to show why should I, therefore ironic. Why would anybody with sense want to labor day and night as a peasant when, look at the situation, the illegal way you get more and with much less effort. So that is the irony, therefore his tone is ironic. Got it? Now the next passage, aggression passage, was easier than the piracy passage, but the direct questions had a little bit of wordplay. So if you understood the passage, you had to cross check every question. The answer options were slightly close and you had to go back to the passage and cross check. Can I really was this, can you deduce this, can I infer this from the passage or not? Has it really been said so? So to keep going back, at least I had to keep referring back to the passage once or twice at least to make sure that I got the right answer. Again, I'll give you about 30 seconds to 40 seconds to 45 seconds to read the slide. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So again, an except question. All of the following statements can be seen as logically implied by the arguments of the passage except. So what is implied and which one is not implied? That's the question you have to answer. A common theory of aggression is that aggression is the result of an abnormally low neural regulation of testosterone. Did he say that? Has that been given? What did he say? According to, wait, let me see. Other influential perspectives, a biological basis for aggression says that humans evolved with an abnormally low neural inhibition of aggressive impulses. And later he talks about testosterone being more. So this answer is obviously the one which is not mentioned because he talks about something else. This talks about something else. Let's see if the others have been mentioned. If the alleged aggressive act is not sought to be avoided, it cannot be considered aggression. Yes. If only if it is controlled, it is sought to be avoided. If it's not sought to be avoided, Freudian, again, this is another part. Where is it written? Right? The Freudian theory of suicide, this and this clearly given. So the question is 1 and 2. 1 obviously has been, we have found it. Now where is 2? If the alleged aggressive act is not sought to be avoided, it cannot really be considered aggression. Here. From here somewhere you'll find the answer. The aggressive acts are the result of inborn biological factors. All of us are born with a death instinct or a biological basis. These instincts account for hostile behaviors. Hormonal factors also take part. All right, and so the question here is, where is the answer for instinct? Okay, these were my doubts, like where has 2 been mentioned? Can you infer 2 from the passage? Let me just write. Any of you, can 2 be inferred? Is it logically, which line in the passage says that if you don't seek to avoid an aggressive impulse, it should not be considered aggression? It obviously is in the second paragraph. Okay, try to find those lines for me. One is, why individuals do it? Due to a suppressed desire. Okay, we have an instinct with us, so that makes you go to that. Second, hormonal. Third, something else. So 1 and 2. Okay, question 10 is the one question which is ambiguous, whose answer is not clear. Okay, question 11. 3 essential factors on which theories of aggression are commonly categorized. Very first paragraph, what did he say? The very first paragraph, guys. Aggressor, the person who commits the act of aggression, circumstances of aggression, and victim. All right. The last part here. Aggressor, circumstance, and the victim. Easy question, answer given in the passage itself. All right. Question 12. He says that an enemy combatant may be subjected to torture in order to extract useful intelligence. Those who inflict the torture have no feelings of anger or any animosity towards the subject. Which one best explicates or explains in detail the larger point being made by the author here? Now, here the larger point will be there in the passage itself, where he says that here an enemy he says hostile aggression. So when he talks of different forms of aggression, he says hostile aggression results from anger intended to inflict pain, because that anger is directed to, and the purpose of the anger is to inflict pain on yourself. On the other hand, instrumental. So this example has been given as an example of instrumental aggression, an aggressive act that is regarded as a means to an end other than pain or injury. So when you are the situation that he has given, inflicting torture on an enemy to get information from him, the torture is not a hostile aggression. It is, in the author's words, it is instrumental aggression, because you want to get some information from him. And so your main intention is not to hurt him. Which one gives that answer? Second, certain kinds of aggression. Inflicting pain is not the objective. It is no more than a utilitarian means. It's just a function. It's just a useful way to get information. So therefore, second is the right answer. All right. Okay. Question, the last question of the set. Author discusses all of the following arguments except. He talks of nature of aggression can vary depending on several factors, including intent. Yes or no? He has talked of one. Men in general are believed to be more hormonally driven to exhibit violence than women. Has he said that or no? Testosterone levels are more. Aggression may have roots in the biological conditions of humanity. Yes, he has mentioned, but he has not said anything about, he says people are born with the death instinct, but that does not mean society keeps this, moderates the death instinct. That has not been mentioned. So the answer is 4. All right. So how many of you found this slot? How did you find the slot? Easy, moderately, difficult? I have found no comments from any of you, which is very strange for my class. All right, quickly type in your responses. As you know, we've done quite a few sessions, and coming up the second part of slot 2, which has all the parajumbles and the summary of passages. The parajumbles are subjective, but once you know the official order given by the CAT question setters, their way of ordering it also seemed okay. And then when you read it second, you found that, okay, I was wrong, they were correct. It was of moderate level difficulty, but the key was the order and the timing. So I was left with the toughest passage at the end, not the toughest, the longest, and I assumed it was the toughest. And then I looked at it now, I feel like kicking myself. I said, oh my God, if this had been given to us, I could have done it way better. Okay, so that is the point here. Keep the CAT exam is over. Many of you have done well, very good for that. Just put that behind you now and focus on the other exams. You have SNAP coming up. Those who are taking the exam on, you've got 11 days for the 20th December slot. Then you have ZAT 2021, very important exam coming up in 25 days, IIFT, TISNET, CMAT and Maharashtra CET. So we have time for some of them, but for SNAP and ZAT, not too many days left. So join our ZAT preparation group, join our classes on YouTube and the free app, so that you get all inputs on the upcoming exams. All right, and we have a special course for ZAT, for decision making and verbal. As you know, the decision making and verbal section are different for ZAT. The passages are of a different kind, the questions are of a different kind. Those of you who have decided or are deciding to take CAT 2021, we have already started batches for CAT 2021, and our CAT training program includes the GDPI process also. So if you're part of that, you will be part of the GDPI process. Okay. Later in the day, my colleagues will be, I'll be analyzing the next section of VARC slot 2, and after me my colleagues will be discussing other sections, and VJJU'S will be taking up controversial questions. I will of course forward question 10, the one where can be inferred except. That's the only question that I feel is not satisfactorily answered. If you have any objections to any of the questions or feel some other answer is a good one, do join our Telegram group and do share your views. Also on this group you can share your views, but the Telegram group is there for instant interaction with you, right? Instant and constant interaction with you. I hope you've enjoyed the session. Do join me for the next session, all right, which is at 3:30. I think it's at 3:30. Yes, it is. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.